Donald Trump is at Davos. I know. What is Davos, you ask? It's the home of the World Economic Forum, where world leaders and business executives drink expensive wine, eat fancy meats, and throw up in hot tubs. And also tell us what's wrong with us. I was going to go, but my Gulfstream's been acting up, and my manservant Sven has an infected uvula. But these elites won't be giving Trump a warm welcome at all, and he's already pissed off the cliffs. Take a look at that. An angry mountain. Swiss activists did that. Pretty funny that there's activists in Switzerland. Please, their biggest problem is being confused for Sweden. But it's not like Donald Trump cares. In fact, the angrier they get, the more his economic policies stand out. But before those Euros go full anti-Trump, maybe look at us first. Our economy is on fire, so much so the Swiss could warm their hands on it. It's cause and effect. Because of the lower corporate tax, now even Starbucks is giving workers raises worth millions. It's funny. A company raises its wages and Democrats go silent. I guess they just want the government to make those decisions. And now Fiat Chrysler said its U.S. workers will receive 2 granted bonuses. This is great news for you and bad news for all those vulnerable Democrats up for re-election who didn't back the bill, which means they can't take any credit. Boo-hoo. All they can hope for is a reversal of fortunes. That's a sad place to be, rooting for bad news so you might win. Might point out that many of us are wearing burgundy today. No reason why. It just happened.
That's true.
It just happened.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
Not a secret society again.
No, it's secret society of burgundy. So, Dana,
yes.
I bet you have a theory about what's going down. His first day in Davos, and he's doing great.
Yes, indeed, he is. And it looked to me like he was having a good time.
Yes, he was.
So every time he's gone overseas, it's like, oh, actually, you know what? He has friends. He's making friends around the world, making relationships. This was actually, I think, one of the things that I imagine that a Trump presidency would bring. So he's a disruptor.
Right.
And one thing, here's my theory I was going to say. If Steve Bannon were still in the White House and advising the president, I think this visit would look very different.
That's
the tone and tenor of it would be different. The speech would be different. Instead, what he's able to do there is go and say, hey, I'm the head coach of capitalism, and the world economy is going well. The United States is even kicking it into higher gear. So let's all work together. Let's do more. What all can we do here? I get the America first, not America alone type of thing. It's not my favorite rhetoric. But on the other side, I think that the leaders who are there, there's some world leaders there, but there's also business leaders. Reality has set in. For a long time, they thought, well, President Trump really doesn't want to be president, or that he doesn't really want to run again. And now they're starting to realize after the first year that he governs very differently than he campaigned, and that they're figuring out a way to work with him. And today there was a roundtable that he did with some business leaders. And all of them were like, we've got investment in the United States, and we're planning to increase that. And pretty soon, all of these companies, there's going to be so many companies in America that are announcing bonuses that if you are the outlier and you have not announced bonuses, that will become the story.
No, it's Fox News.
Not bonuses for people like you, Jesse.
Oh, what is that supposed to mean?
You're under contract.
But, but don't you think that pretty much like you can? It's easier to say like which companies haven't gone ahead and done it. Maybe companies are still thinking about it because you hear news about it every day.
No, it's such a good point, Jesse. It's like a weird version of a combination of trickle-down economics and peer pressure.
Yes.
If you start watching everybody do it, I mean, how can you not deny this cause and effect? It's happening.
Well, it's not trickle-down economics. It's more of like a flood.
Yes.
And it's not coming from the top down. It's broad-based and growing out.
Flash
it's not
flood.
just, yes, flash flood, Water's World. It's not just $1,000 bonus. Some of it's profit-sharing checks. They're getting checks $5,000. They're reinvesting in America. There's a
also, they lowered
growth.
the prices of the energy costs at several different utilities across the country.
That's right. And some companies are even throwing money into college funds for the workers and things like that. So it's going to be very difficult for the Democrats to run against winning. I don't see how they do it. How can you deny your 401k exploiting? How can you deny tax cuts which benefit you in your bank account? They're like climate deniers, but they're winning deniers. It's so easy.
That's a great line.
It's so easy, and you could see it coming from a mile away, yet not one Democrat voted for the corporate tax cut.
Yep.
And the deregulation is responsible, too. The only way they're going to have to run against him is just go super negative and try to bring out women, blacks, and Latinos, which don't usually turn out in the midterms. It's not a sure thing winning back the House.
I'm stealing winning deniers from my show on Saturday.
I saw you wrote it
I wrote it down. All right, so, Juan, I want to play a shot from another network. I know. But you got to help these people out because nobody's watching.
Right.
This is their take on Trump and Davos.
And we should point out one other thing. The chairpeople of Davos this year there are 7. I believe all of them are women. When I look at President Trump right there, I mentioned Klaus Schwab is with him, Jared Kushner, Gary Cohn, Rex Tillerson. He's flanked almost entirely, well, there's one, by white guys.
So, Juan, obviously they have race on the brain over at MSNBC. Nothing but white men. Clearly, this is a racist gathering and must be stopped. This is almost an alt-right event.
Yeah, it could be, except it's overseas, right? Yeah. No, I mean, I think the economy is going great, and I think everybody is excited and wonderful. But if you're saying that this is somehow good news that he's at Davos bragging about the American economy, let me tell you, there are several economies overseas that are doing even better.
Like
one.
Which ones?
Oh, there's so many, but China is obviously doing much better. And then you go into Europe
workers
and,
get
and
paid
the German.
pennies over there.
Oh, okay, all right. So now we're making excuses again.
Well,
the second thing,
it's reality.
The second thing to
if
say,
you have like slave labor,
a minute ago you were saying the American economy is just booming. It's never been like this. Second thing to say is a majority of Americans credit President Obama, not President Trump. With responsibility.
Are they really
for
Americans?
I see. Anybody who disagrees with Trump is not an American.
Where are they
Fake
from?
news. Fake news.
Kimberly, can I play?
Can I finish?
I guess so.
And then this morning's papers have Republicans rebelling against Trump because he's raising tariffs that are raising prices, and people are saying, well, don't do it. And then don't forget, the farmers and others are still lobbying against the idea that he wants to break apart NAFTA.
I think that
break apart trade
This is
deals.
what makes Republicans honest, because I have problems. I don't want a protectionist leader. I have a theory. I have a theory. He's playing tough with these deals, but I don't think he's as protectionist.
Well, I'm just saying. I just say there's a lot more to this story about the economy, and the idea that he can run on the economy. Obviously, if most Americans think the economy is booming, doing great, but they don't credit Donald Trump, that's not good news for Republicans.
Well, let's see how long they're able to try to create an alternative reality, alternative facts there, and not accept that Donald Trump has actually done quite a bit here. I mean, look, you've got a housing rebound, the economy's accelerating, jobs numbers up, infrastructure development up. And there's a lot of positive things happening here that you can credit President Trump with, including the corporate tax cuts. So all of this is actually positioning not only the president, but Republicans have something to work with in terms of these midterm races. So he's in a very good position. He's there in Davos. It's fantastic that the president is participating and showing up there. I'm sure some of the people are quite upset that he's taking the press away from them. But he has wins on his side, and he's coming strong out of this whole battle with Schumer and DACA. So, right now, this is a very positive positioning for the president.
Well, you know what I think is the fact is that what you see at Davos, Kimberly, is people who are saying, I think the theme of the whole thing is fractured, world, but we have a shared future in terms of a global economy. And so they are going ahead in terms of trade deals. They're going ahead in terms of trying to work together multilaterally. Meanwhile, Trump is there saying, oh, no, this is about bilateral agreements with the United States. And he's saying we are putting the U.S. first, and we are about isolationism, if not protectionism. That is not a happy message.
You know what amuses me? When the left said Trump was going to crash the economy, then the economy accelerates, and they say Obama gets credit for it. I square that circle.
No, you
How about the American people say
Plus,
that?
when people get a $1,000 bonus check in January 2018, how is that Obama's
By the way, I think
I
the latest polls are 40% believe the economy's better has to do with Trump, and the other ones are split. So there's no majority of Americans who feel this way.
And for Republicans and President Trump, they're definitely improving, just even in the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And part of that is just all the good headlines. But I have a couple points. One is that for Democrats who didn't vote for these tax cuts and the tax reform, this could have been theirs. President Obama did want to cut the corporate tax rate to 27. The corporations were excited about that, but he wouldn't budge on individual rates because he wanted to increase taxes on the rich. So all of this could have been theirs. And the companies that have announced bonuses, imagine what they would have done to bend over backwards to try to help. And so there's a missed opportunity. The other thing that works in conservatives' favor is that you see some companies pushing to $15 an hour. That was done without the government telling them that they had to. So that is another way for conservatives to say that the market works. The last thing I would say is that is good for the president to do is that as he meets with these other world leaders, Theresa May, Macron, and also Kagame of Rwanda, there's going to come a time when he will have to ask one of these world leaders for a favor or for help, and that will be politically unpopular in their country for them to do it. But if he has personal relationships with them, it's more likely that they'll be willing to pony up.
That's a salesman. You know, one last thing. Switzerland, in my belief that they should not be allowed to have activists. If they are neutral, if they're neutral, they're not allowed to play. That's like dealing yourself at a blackjack table without any chips. You know what I'm saying? If you're neutral, you can't protest. How about that, huh?
Are they neutral as a military power?
I don't know. I don't read a lot.
Oh, okay.
Switzerland or Sweden?
I get them confused. Okay. I know one of them
changes them back and forth.
One of them yodels, right?
Yeah.
The Swiss yodel and the Swedes
fish.
They fish.
Well,
don't do it at the same time.
There is the candy, the Swedish fish. Remember?
All right. I think Donald Trump's going to come back with a few Norwegians. I don't know.
Not a nice old country over there.
Yeah.